Two of the most central figures in the story of the Nauvoo Expositor were brothers William and Wilson Law.
William Law was called to replace Hiram Smith as the second counselor in the first presidency.
Wilson Law was actually called to be the second in command of the Nauvoo Legion under Joseph Smith. But over the next few years, the relationship between the Law brothers and Joseph Smith had some strains going on. The Law brothers disagreed with Joseph Smith over sales of land, Joseph Smith's campaign for president, the mixing of church and state, but the big issue for them was plural marriage.
William just couldn't accept that revelation. He begged Joseph to give up plural marriage.
And it reached the point where on January 8th, Joseph Smith dropped William Law from the first presidency.
The Law brothers and several others of these dissenters organized together and decided to establish a newspaper called the Nauvoo Expositor.
And on the 7th of June, printed this issue of the paper.
And in that issue, they made their case that Joseph Smith was a fallen prophet.
Joseph Smith and City Council immediately saw it as a large problem.
The Expositor became a matter of worry for the people in Nauvoo, not just because it threatened to expose some principles that had been taught privately, but because the impact of that exposure might well be mob attack on the saints, something they had experienced repeatedly in Missouri.
The Nauvoo Charter gave the City Council the authority to determine if something was a nuisance. And the Charter also gave them the right, if they deemed that something was a nuisance, they had the right to have it destroyed. And the City Council ordered Joseph Smith as mayor to see that the Nauvoo Expositor was destroyed.
I think every student of Mormon history has been curious about whether there was a legal justification for the Mormon City Council to suppress a newspaper in Nauvoo in 1844. I concluded on the basis of the law of that time that the Mormons had sound legal justification for suppressing the issues of the Expositor, but they did not have a sound legal basis for destroying the press, and they would have been liable in damages to the owners of the press for that action.
The Nauvoo City Council's actions, what they thought would alleviate the tensions, actually had the opposite effect. Very shortly thereafter, armed bodies of men were roaming around the county just looking for trouble.
So on the 18th of June, Joseph put Nauvoo under martial law for defense because these threats against the city were credible and they were violent.
Joseph and Hiram Smith wondered what to do. Eventually, they determined that what they would have to do would be to go to Carthage and answer this charge in person.
And so they made their way to Carthage. They got there right before midnight on the 24th of June.
And were released on bail. However, as Joseph and Hiram were officers in the Nauvoo Legion, they were rearrested on the charge of treason against the state of Illinois.
The problem with treason is that it's not a bailable offense. So once they got Joseph Smith into Carthage, he had to stay there because he was charged with treason.
And 2 days later, Joseph and Hiram Smith were killed there in the Carthage jail.
The destruction of the Nauvoo Expositor was one of the most important, significant events in the whole chain of events leading up to Joseph Smith's death.